Hello and welcome to another episode of Monday with Marie. This Monday, we are going to be dealing with a lot of interesting issues. One will be around etiquette with virtual meetings, and the other, we're going to be talking a little bit about things that have been going on in the world right now that are important for us to discuss. All right, so let's look at our first question. Our first question comes from John. John writes, Hi, love watching Monday with Marie. My question is around virtual meetings. So, my team, which happens to be a federal government team, has virtual meetings. And a lot of times people refuse to turn their cameras on. We've tried everything to get people to turn their cameras on. We've said that it's mandated. We've said that they need to turn their cameras on. What do we do to get people to turn their cameras on? Great question, John. All right, so a couple of things. Mandating, as you can tell from the question and from your own experience, John, doesn't really get people to turn their cameras on. The trick that we like to use to get people to turn their cameras on is that we get them to do activities that force their cameras to be on. So, for example, we'll use whiteboard paddles and have them write things on those whiteboard paddles and hold up those paddles in order to get them to turn their cameras on. Sometimes we'll use playing cards and use the denominations on the playing cards to mean yes, no, maybe, or some other things and have people turn on their cameras. You see, what we're trying to do here is to get people to turn their camera on by realizing that part of having their camera on is part of that meeting experience. And by a bit of gamification in the process, we're getting people to turn their cameras on. We're also not doing it in a way that says you must or force them, because it just builds animosity and people will put on their cameras. A lot of times, what happens is that people won't put on their cameras because they feel like they are not camera ready, right? They don't have their hair done, they don't have their makeup done, so they're not camera ready. And what I say to that is, when you set up the rules for people working in a virtual environment, you say to them, you need to look like you're going to be in front of your customer or you're coming to work. Like, would you come to work without your hair done? Would you come to work? Well, you might come to work without makeup. No one judges. but but basically, would you come to work not looking like you could be in front of people? It's the same way when you're getting on camera. It's hard for people to understand that. And then you have instances where people feel like they can do other things while they're at the meeting. So it's okay for me to be in the bathroom, which, by the way, it's not okay for you to be in the bathroom. Or it's okay for me to be driving in the car and not turn the camera on because I'm driving and having the meeting. In that case, then you need to join the meeting via phone and not via video. Come on, like, just join via phone. But the point here is that we think it's okay to do a lot of those things because it's not a big deal. And the truth is, if we were sitting in an office having a meeting, we wouldn't be doing six other things while we're having the meeting. Now, here's where leadership has to take some ownership to this. Are your meetings engaging enough to get people to want to turn their cameras on and be engaged? Are your meetings not just boring that I could have been an email and I can do other things while I'm in this meeting? Are you challenging me enough in these meetings? And when I mean challenging, I mean challenging me intellectually in these meetings so that I can remain engaged in the meetings. The answer is no. Why would you expect people to turn their cameras on? I mean, honestly, what is the point? So, another great resource that I would highly, highly recommend, Tara Powers has a For Dummies book for virtual meetings and virtual teams. It's a great book, has some great tips, great ideas that you can use to really make those virtual team experiences engaging. Pick up that book, highly recommend it. Great book for you to use to really improve your virtual teams, your remote teams. All right. So, John, I hope that answers your question. So, our next question comes from someone really just asking a funny question. So they didn't give their name and they just said, Marie, I've heard a lot of things recently, and my question are, what are tariffs? Okay, there. All right, so imagine, I'm just going to use this as an explanation for tariffs. So imagine you walk into your favorite burger joint and you're about to order, but suddenly the cashier says to you, actually, since beef comes from another country, we're adding an extra fee. And you sort of like blink and you're like, what? Why doesn't the other country pay the fee? And the cashier shakes their head and says, no, you do. Now your $5 burger is going to cost $7.50, and the extra $2.50, that's a tariff. The country exporting the beef doesn't pay the tariff. The US business, aka you, the buyer, pays it. Now imagine your entire company supply chain is working like this, but with millions of dollars at stake. Tariffs make goods and services more expensive. Companies are adjusting by cutting costs, often in places like training and process improvement. So by cutting that training cost, it's going to cost you even more in the long run if you think about it. So what happens when a company stops investing in the skill development, in those critical skills that we need? Well, we're breaking it down for you in a really an upcoming sort of conversation that we want to have. I loved this question that I thought, let's talk about the effects that tariffs have and what it means to training and process improvement. And so, with that, I'm going to invite you to join me on a conversation in 2 weeks, and I'm going to post it, where we're going to talk about the effects of tariffs and how they do affect our companies, small and large, and how they affect our employees. And so I love this question. Whoever decided to pose this question, thank you. And hopefully that was very simple and a little bit of a cheeky way to explain what tariffs are. And we're going to dive in deeper on how it affects the work that we all do. All right. Well, have a great Monday. Try to stay out of trouble on this beautiful Monday, or get into some trouble. There's always good trouble to be had. And I will see you next Monday, or I will also see you on Wednesday for Mapping It Out Wednesday, where we talk about motivation, motivational maps. What are they? How do we help build motivation? And you'll get to hear from some great practitioners. All right.